Ben, thank you so much for joining us here at FundForum International in Berlin this year. We heard you speaking there a lot about how businesses need to be adaptable. So what does that mean going forward, and what are customers asking for?
Adaptable businesses really think about the strategy that they're going to employ to get the end consumer to believe that they're actually going to create an outcome. And this sounds very soft for an industry that's built on numbers, but it's really important. If asset management is changing from a product to a service industry, and all indications are it is, then increasingly they have to take on a lot of the elements of a service industry. That means consumer branding that's built on trust. It means technology that's built to get data out of end users so you can customize the experience and then deliver the engagement back to them that they want. So if we were talking about a service industry like any type of professional service, any type of travel experience, any type of delivery of something that would be about a customer engagement, these would be natural things. They're not natural for an industry that's been built for expert buyers and on a product mindset. So the firms that have had experience with consumer branding, the firms that have thought about how to adapt their engagement model, and the firms that think a lot about data and how do we pull it out and deliver it back, they'll do best. And by the way, a lot of asset managers do this quite well already. There's a lot of opportunity. The big issue is it's not for every firm. We can't support as many asset managers as we have now, given the way demand is changing.
You said there that a lot do it well already. Is that because that mindset's been creeping in over the past decade, say, away from the sort of manufacturing mindset, as you put it, to the sort of more customer service focused?
A number of firms have thought ahead saying, we'd like to get to the end user because of the economic reasons. It's disintermediated, intermediaries that basically charge tolls. But they've also thought about data, and they've thought about their brand. That's actually where you've seen a lot of shift over the past 3 years in particular, is how can we make our brand a fiduciary brand as opposed to just investment performance? And that helps when you're delivering allocation, it helps when you're delivering advice, it helps if you're arguing that you're delivering outcomes. So
You've also got very different investors at the moment. You talked about how it's moving away from the institutions to the individuals. Tell me about that and how that's changing the face of it.
And it's throughout financial services, right? If you go back even as recently as 10 years ago, banking, insurance, asset management, all were built to play with each other within the financial services system. But as individuals retire and they have nest eggs to figure out how to create cash flows from, and as younger investors figure out how in a low interest rate environment do we even get savings, all of these industries have to figure about how do we change ourselves to create a consumer experience? How do we make consumers actually interested in what we're doing? So for asset management, it's a shift to the individual, but an individual where they actually have to think about the end user much more rather than just let's put it on a supermarket shelf and see who buys it.
Yeah, because those individuals are pretty demanding nowadays in the 21st century.
And they require customization. They require people to actually portray that they can figure out what they as individuals need and give them something that's specific for them.
So with new customers come perhaps new competitors as well who want to get into that area.
Agreed. So I think technology firms will think about this. Asset management remains highly regulated, so I don't think you'll see direct end-to-end come from tech firms, but certainly they'll play a role in enabling technology. The big winners, though, will be traditional players, asset managers, and intermediaries that realize how the world is changing and adapt to it quickly and basically steal the march by becoming one of the first movers. That group has a lot of potential to actually box out other competitors in the industry. That's the big shift that's taking place.
And that's because they have the expertise at the end of the day from decades of working in that environment as well.
In lots of different places they do. The key is, do they have a strategy that links it all together so that they know how they can deploy it most effectively? And do they have a value proposition? Because even from intermediary to intermediary, being able to say, we deliver an outcome better, and here's why, will help translate to a brand that stands out from others.
So if you had to paint a picture of who the winners are going to be, what would that look like going forward?
It would look quite similar to the same winners we would describe today, but there's going to be fewer of them, and they're going to look a lot different. So the brand name might be the same, but what's behind that brand name is going to change pretty dramatically, both from the asset manager perspective and from the intermediary perspective, be it a private bank, be it a wirehouse broker-dealer, however you're looking at that space. It will be the same names in many cases, but under or basically across totally different business models.
And if you had to pick one thing out of what would make them different from how they are now that will make them succeed, what would it be? Would it be embracing the consumer, if you like?
Service mentality. In other words, we don't create widgets and move them through other people's pipeline. We actually try to devise something that meets the client's needs. The industry's talked about that for 30 years, but they've always been able to sell a product to get there. Now they actually have to do it. And this is the big change that's taken place. There's no longer any margin for error. The demand is here.
Is it being embraced or resisted?
I think it's being embraced. It's being embraced in the idea that who wouldn't want to offer that to a client? I think what you're seeing now, at least from the perspective of CEOs in the industries, they realize this means we actually have to start over on strategy. What worked before does not necessarily work going forward. Blank sheets of paper are coming out.
Exciting times ahead.
Very much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ben. Nice to speak to you.
Very nice to talk. Thanks.